Here's a story. At 16, you begin dating Ray. After verbal and physical abuse, you eventually leave. But in your new relationship, you get pregnant rather quick. And when the baby is born, he looks like Ray. Your new boyfriend is heartbroken and eventually dies from alcohol, and you get back with Ray. The abuse continues. He puts a gun to your head, pulls the trigger, but it's jammed. One night, Ray is set up by a female and gets questioned by some old childhood friends, T-Brock and Blink, about Ray's brother, Osama. After an argument, they shoot his car up and Ray is hit 13 times. T-Brock and Blink attend the funeral, pay their respects, and try to finish the job. They begin shooting up the funeral. As bullets fly, Blink is struck in the head. He dies next to Ray's casket with a bulletproof vest and a gun in hand. Ballistics are later performed, and turns out the gun in Blink's hand matched the bullet in Ray's head. T-Brock is furious after losing a friend. Witnesses are killed, and Ray's father's home is shot up, killing a 1-year-old baby and a 70-year-old babysitter, while the other kids hid under the bed. Trappin Anonymous.
They shot him in his head. It was just a big hole in his forehead. It was something that I probably shouldn't have went to go see, but we went and it was bad. It was bad. They shot him so many times. His body was full of holes.
Alrighty, let's pay some bills, y'all. Make this the best season yet with nutritional 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy, giving you more time to do things that you want to do. Go outside instead of prepping your meals, instead of doing this and that. You can literally heat up these meals, put them in the microwave, bring them out. I've literally had them myself. I had the steak, I had the shrimp. Yo, these joints taste phenomenal. Please get up on these Factor meals, y'all. You're not going to regret it. With 45 weekly gourmet items on that list, that menu, you will not have a problem choosing something that you're gonna love. Factor got these guilt-free snacks and desserts. They got these juices. I mean, freshly squeezed. Chef's kiss, y'all. I'm talking about breakfast, lunch, dinner. You cannot go wrong. Get started at factormeals.com. Use code TRAPPIN50OFF to get 50% off of your Factor meal. When you get that 50% off, it's also going to come with free shipping. So make sure you put in TRAPPIN50OFF, factormeals.com. Factormeals.com/TRAPPIN50OFF. Y'all already know what time it is. Let's get it. What's good? My name is Chris Styles. It's Trappin Anonymous. Welcome back. Welcome back. Shout out to everybody that's helped keeping the movement. We really do appreciate you. Thank you for all your support. Don't forget to DM me, write me, comment, share. Listen, all my episodes, all my guests come from them DMs. I do reply to my DMs. So please reach out. If you're sitting there watching this show week after week and just saying, you know, I got something to get off my chest and you want your story to be told on Trappin Anonymous, please do not hesitate to write me. They're here to inform, educate, and keep your little homie off the streets. My name is Chris Styles, Trappin Anonymous. Let's get it. How are you?
I'm good.
So, what's your name and why your story is important?
My name is Shaquita, and my story is important because I want to help others that's been through things as far as sexual assault, violence, and then where I come from. I just want people to know about the real struggles of Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan. Talk to me a little bit about your upbringing.
So I have great parents. My dad and my mom, they were married. My mom was 18. My dad's about 4 years older than her. He always worked. She always worked. She worked in the school system. He worked in the shops. Never wanted for anything at all. So I can't complain. But being in Flint, the whole Flint is the hood. Like there is no suburbs. So growing up in Flint, it was tough. You know, you had to fight. You had to watch your surroundings all the time. So, and then we had water was contaminated really bad, and it still is.
To this day?
Yeah, to this day, the water is still contaminated.
Okay. It's almost unbelievable. We've been hearing about this Flint water crisis for many years,
Yeah.
and nothing's being done about it. What was it like growing up for you? Was your father in your life throughout your entire childhood?
Yeah, so my father was in my life my whole childhood, but he moved to Atlanta when I was very young, probably like 8,
Hmm.
and he got transferred from General Motors to Atlanta. So it was distant. So like we would have to take road trips to see him in the summer times. So like when I was in school, my mom was just always there. He was just, summertime pretty much.
So they broke up. Your
Yeah, they
mom, they
divorced.
divorced.
Hmm.
Okay. Talk to me about the night that the assault occurs.
Okay, so when I was 9, my mom had a boyfriend at the time. His mom lived next door to us. They were from Mississippi. His name was Mike. Mike ended up getting put out. Him and my mom got into an argument. He got put out. But I used to have very bad asthma as a child. So I always kept my window cracked. I had my own room. My sister, 2 years older than me, she had her own room, and my brother was underneath me. He had his own room. So Mike knew this. So when him and my mom wasn't together anymore, he pretty much went back to his mom's house, which was next door. So one night, but before this even happened, he used to tell me that he had a dream. Now, years before this attack happened, he used to tell me he had a dream that he wanted to share with me, which had something to do with a movie called Fat Beach that him and my mom went to see, and she didn't like it. So she ran out the movies, made him leave, and they argued when they got home. So he would always make these jokes like, "Your mom over exaggerates. The movie wasn't that bad. It's this dream I'll tell you about eventually."
Mm.
So, like, as I'm getting older, like he's been around for like 2 years. So as I'm getting older, he would tell me about, I'm gonna tell you about this dream. So basically the day before my mom put him out, he came through my window. I was asleep. I could smell like this beer smell, and then he start tapping me, waking me up, saying, I'm gonna tell you about that dream. Now, mind you, this is a dream that he has been trying to tell me for years. So I'm like, Mike, what are you doing in here? Do my mom even know you're in here? He like, don't worry about that. Just let me tell you about the dream. So I'm like, I'm tired. He like, no, I'm gonna tell you about this dream, and that's when he pulled out a knife. And so
Mm.
that's when I knew this was something, it was going to be something crazy, serious. And I was scared. So he was like, you better not scream, you better not talk, or I'm going to kill your mom. And my mom's room was across from mine. So I just laid there. As I laid there, he started kissing on my stomach and doing oral sex.
Mm.
At the time, I didn't know what was going on. I just knew it wasn't right. So I was scared, and I was just like, saying stop, but then he kept going. And then that's when he went further and started performing. Well, he was trying to go in me vaginally, but it was hurting. So I kept saying, stop, it hurts, it hurts. And so that's when he turned me around and started trying to go inside of me in my anal. And of course, I was small, so it was hurting. So I was telling him, like, this hurts. Please stop. I'm crying. And
Mm.
so, after he did what he did, he flipped me back over, and he played with his private area and ejaculated on my stomach. So he didn't penetrate inside of me, but he did on my stomach. And then I had a gown next to me that he grabbed and wiped himself off with. So in my head, I'm just, I'm sore, I'm sad. He told me to get up and go wash up. But I used to watch Cops a lot as a child, and I just knew that about DNA evidence and things like that. So the gown, I remember the gown, he wiped himself off. So as I washed up, I knew he was trying to have me get rid of evidence.
Mm.
And so when I went back into the room, I hurried up and I kicked the gown underneath my bed
Mm.
just to save it. And after that, he went back out the window like nothing happened. I laid there in that bed. I cried all night in pain. I wanted to go in my mom's room so bad and tell her, but I was scared he would kill her. Mind you, his mom lived next door to us. So I didn't do anything. I just laid there crying. I couldn't believe it. I really thought it was a nightmare. I really thought, like, is this real? And it really was. So the next day, I woke up. I knew it was a Thursday because every Friday I would go to my grandmother's house. Um, Mike came to pick me up for school. My mom didn't know what happened though. So it was not unusual for him to come pick me up because they were still friends. So the whole ride to school, he was telling me, like, remember what I said. You better not tell or I'm gonna kill your mom. So I was still scared, but in my head I knew when I got to school, I was gonna tell somebody. So when I got to school, I had two god sisters. They're twins. And I told them, and they was like, come on, we got to go to the principal. We got to go to the counselor. This is serious. And I was just like, I can't, because I don't want him, they're going to call my mom. I don't want them to kill her. So they say, okay, well, Quita, look, you got to tell your mom. So we're going to let it ride for like a day or something, but please tell your mom. So I knew I was going to my grandmother's house. So Mike took me home. He picked me up from school, steady threatening me. You better not say nothing. I'm sore, but I have to play it off because I don't want my mom to recognize that I'm walking different. I'm acting different. And so that's when I got home and packed my bags from my grandmother's house. I didn't tell my sister. Me and my sister, we're close, but not that close. And then my little brother was younger than me, so I knew when I got to my grandmother's house, I was gonna tell because as a child, my mom always taught us about child molestation. She was molested by her grandfather. Yeah. So, um, and my grandmother was molested. So this is like a pattern that happens, like a curse in our generational curse in our family. So I knew about child molestation and things like that. So I knew when I got to my grandmother's house, I would be comfortable. So when I got to my grandmother's house, I told her. And she just, bust out crying. My uncle was there and they just held me, prayed over me, and then they called my mom. But I told her not to say exactly what happened because he threatened to kill her and he had a knife. So my grandmother told well, basically, I didn't find out what the phone call was until I got older. But I guess my grandmother called my mom and told her, like, you need to get over here. Something's wrong with Quita. And my mom asked, is it her asthma? And my grandmother said, no, but just get here. So my mom came, and that's when they took me to the hospital, and I had to get a rape kit done. And there was a police officer there who had to, witness everything. And yeah, so I told about the gown that I hid, and they took that into DNA evidence, which confirmed Mike's DNA was on my gown from his semen.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. I can't help but think about like some adults can't even do anal because it's so painful.
Right.
To think that a grown man inserted himself into a 9-year-old child anally. Like I said, I can't even think of like many adults that can't even handle,
Yeah.
that kind of pain. And for him to do something so heinous, um, I can't imagine.
It was crazy. Like it hurt it, and it was the worst pain that a child could ever go through. Like I hate it for anybody to have to go through something like that. But that's why I'm telling my story because I want to help somebody. Thank you.
Wow. Okay. You get the rape kit done.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to your mom.
Right.
She said she was dealing with Mike
Mm-hmm.
after your father left. She was just, like lonely.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing stuff around the house, taking out the garbage, fixing stuff here and there.
Yeah,
He gained y'all's trust.
he did.
He gained y'all's trust, but you felt like he always leaned towards you a little bit more.
Yeah. So as a child, my sister is 2 years older than me. But he never had a relationship with my sister. Like, I don't know what it was. He didn't. And then my brother, he's a boy. You would think a man would bond with a boy, but it was more so of me. He bought me a dog, I had a dog. He taught me how to take care of my dog. He taught me how to play basketball. I was kind of like a tomboy coming up. And so I don't know. It was just like I couldn't believe he did this because I thought he was a friend.
Right. Your mother also mentioned to me that she had been intimate with him, knowing that she was around 35, maybe he was around 27, but he was a younger guy, and
Yeah.
she felt like she was a little bit more experienced than he was. And so she kind of like, put it on him and
Right.
ghosted him.
Yeah.
Not ghosted him, but just kind of like, yeah, we can't do this no more.
Yeah.
She told me that she knew it was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
that she probably shouldn't have been dealing with this younger guy.
Mm-hmm.
And,
And see, when she told you that, that was the first time I ever heard her say something like that. Like, I didn't know that he was that much younger than her. I think maybe like 7 years younger than her.
right. Um, you can't help but to think like, was this like a retaliation because of your mom, or just the definition of a sick man?
So I thought it was like, I always wonder, was it retaliation? Why me? Those type of questions. As I got older, I got a message on Facebook. The message on Facebook was from his stepsister, who also stayed next door to us. Her father was married to his mom. And she said, I'm glad that you told because I didn't have the strength to tell.
Wow.
He was doing it to her as well.
Wow.
She was older than me. Yeah, so to this day, me and her are still friends on Facebook.
Wow.
She checks on me, I check on her, and yeah.
This is
So
really
this is just a sick man. This is something he's done before.
right. Okay. Your mother told me, she went and got the ski mask, got in the car, and she said I was hunting him down
Yeah.
to kill him.
My mama don't play about her kids.
She don't play about her kids. And so many stories that I hear, the parents take convincing, I ain't believing this, I ain't believing that. The minute your mother found out, she sprung into
She's
action.
on it. And that meant so much to me to have a supporting mother. I know a lot of people who've been molested or even guys, and they're afraid to tell their mothers because they believe the mother's not going to believe them. They're going to choose the man over them. My mom was nothing like that. She was the one who got me counseling.
Yeah.
She stood by my side during the whole trial.
Right.
Because he went on the run. When she went looking for him, ski mask up, my daddy flew in from Atlanta. My uncles, they were looking for him. They wanted to kill him. But what happened was he went on the run instantly. I found out later when my grandmother called my mom said she instantly knew if it wasn't my asthma, something was wrong. Now, mind you, Mike was put out of our house, but he still had clothes there. So she said that day my grandmother called her, he was washing clothes. And when he was washing clothes, she noticed a towel on the sink. Mind you, that's when he had me wash up. And she asked him, where does this towel come from? And he just was like, oh, let me put that in the washer with the rest of the clothes. He was trying to get rid of the evidence. So she said, anything was wrong with Quita when you dropped her off to school and picked her up? He said, no. And she said he was moving funny though. So she kind of like didn't think at the time it was a sexual assault or anything like that, but she knew something was wrong. And she feel like it triggered him when she asked, and that's why he hurried up and got out of there. So when they went looking for him, my mom went to his mom's house, beat her up. Yeah, because they're gonna believe him over a child. And my mom reacted. And during that time they wouldn't tell where he was at. So he was on the run for a whole year. My whole at 9 years old, I was so scared because he had a brother that looked exactly like him. He used to walk the neighborhood all the time. And there was also rumors that Mike was the neighborhood child molester. We had a neighborhood child molester at the time. So I was just scared. I was always watching my back. I had anger issues in school. It was just a lot going on mentally with me. But then I had a great psychiatrist, Veronica Williams in Flint, Michigan. Excellent. And that helped me. I had my mom as a supporter. And then the police officer who was there from the beginning all the way to the end.
How did they eventually catch him?
They eventually caught him by tapping his mother's phone line, and they had told her before if you had anything to do with hiding him, you would get charged. She said, I don't know where he's at. They tapped her phone line. They kept tapping her phone line, and one day they got a hit, and he called to talk to his mom. He was in Mississippi at her sister's house hiding out, and they picked him up. A whole year later, I had to stand trial at 10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah,
This mother was still protecting, because if they feel like he didn't do it, then he could have just went to court and.
exactly. Got it
But the
over with.
fact that he's hiding, they should have already knew,
Mm-hmm.
but still chose to protect him.
Yeah.
10 years old, you stand trial. What was that like for a 10-year-old? What did you get on the stand and say? What was that whole process like?
So it was very scary because I hadn't seen him since. And so when I'm in court, I look over because they say, you know, you got to point to who is the person that done this to you. And I noticed him, but he looks different because he gained weight and then he was beat up. His whole face was swollen up. I later on found out he was in the same jail holding as a family member of mine that had attacked him.
No way.
Yeah. Karma is crazy, right? So that's what happened. And so I was nervous, but like I said, I was ready to get this monster locked away. And so I was put on my big girl pants and I told what happened, from him grooming me and telling me he had a, a dream he had to share with me all those years, for him to actually basically was preying on me the whole time. I'm thinking he was a friend. And I told my story and I told what happened to me. And that judge was like, that's premeditated. So, you know, most of the time rapists get not that much time. This man got 2 life sentences, premeditated. So after hearing him say he wasn't guilty, you know, and his mom and them standing up in the court saying she's a lying little bee and calling me all kinds of names. And the first day my mom got into a fight with her in the courtroom, we got put out. We had to come back. So the second day was more calm. Everybody knew the rules and that we didn't want a mistrial. So everybody acted accordingly and guilty. Every juror, guilty, guilty, guilty. That was the best feeling ever, hearing guilty, 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 guilty.
And this was just based off of your testimony, your nightgown.
Oh, let's talk about the nightgown.
Yeah.
So the nightgown that was in police custody during the time he was on the run and wherever they put their evidence in their lab was lost. Right. So when they found him in Mississippi and I had to stand trial that next, you know, when I was 10, they don't have the gown anymore, but they have his DNA, you know, proven to be on the semen that was on my gown on paperwork, on file. So that was enough to use in court, even though they didn't have the gown anymore. And his lawyer tried to say allegedly that was a gown I had on, like as if it could have been anybody's gown, and regardless, his semen was on the gown. So
Exactly.
So then the lawyer of his tried to say my hymen was not, my hymen was still intact. So when they do a sexual assault kit, you know, they say if the hymen is intact, if a person had to get stitches, my hymen was still intact. But remember, I told you, I kept telling him to stop. It hurted. So he didn't go all the way in me. He tore me. I had tears and contusions. So on the paperwork, it says tears and contusions, hymen intact. And then vaginally, I had tears, but I didn't, you know, he didn't go all the way in. So I'm not sure if he knew to, you know, go a certain amount. He done this before, you know. People aren't dumb. People like this, they research how to get away with stuff like that. And I think that's why he didn't penetrate inside of me. Instead, he pulled out and, you know, ejaculated and, yeah, and wiped down and try to have me wash up. But it still was enough evidence. A doctor got on the stand and said in most cases, the hymen is still intact, because they're so young and the person can't go all the way inside. So the hymen can still be intact. So he was still guilty.
And at 9 years old, you're not even really exposed to much sexual activity.
Not at all, especially me. I was tomboyish.
So you're just like, what is going on? What is this that
What
you're
is
even
this?
doing? This is like shock. This is trauma. This is painful. It's like all of these things combine into one.
It makes you angry.
Yeah.
I had it was a point in time in life where I just did not like men.
Yeah.
I didn't want them around me.
Yeah.
I loved my dad, but I didn't know how to talk to my dad. I didn't even, it messed me up mentally real bad. I feel like I had PTSD real bad. I didn't know what that was at the time until I got older. I had to go through anger management. I was just always mad.
Yeah. Okay. This man had a record.
Yes.
When they had picked him up.
He did. I didn't know that at the time. He ended up, I researched him because I wanted to know, like about him. Who is this man? Because clearly we didn't know. And he had a brother who killed someone, and he was the driver. He knowingly took his brother to a woman's house where the brother went in there and shot the woman dead. Right. So in the paperwork, it says he said he did it for $5 of gas money. So it was like he admitted he drove his brother over there knowingly, knowing that his brother was going to go kill somebody. But
and this is the same brother you would see in the neighborhood.
Yeah, he's dead now. He died. Alcohol.
Wow. Did he ever go to jail for the murder?
So that was okay. So Mike ended up taking like some kind of plea deal. The brother was still going to be going to trial for it or something, but he died.
Wow.
Yeah.
What age?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But I know that Mike is 55 years old now. So maybe in his 30s or something. But I do know that after that, Mike was put on probation. He violated his probation 3 times after, being well, I guess they didn't really charge him with anything. They just basically put him on a probation. But he violated probation by manslaughter. They don't go into details in the paperwork that I researched, but he also has a manslaughter charge. So when I read why the judge gave him so much time, that all played a part in it too.
Right.
He was violating probation. He has a case of driving someone to a place to kill a woman, and also manslaughter.
Right. Wow. Wow. This guy was a menace.
Yeah, he was.
But the family too.
Yeah. I feel like they knew.
Right. What was the judge's reaction when sentencing, when it was time to sentence? What was his sentence? And also, like, what was sort of like the judge's reaction? How did the judge speak to him?
The judge made me feel so comfortable because out of all the things I watched on TV, this judge was like, "You are a monster." He told him. He said, "You're a monster, and I'm going to make sure that you don't see the day of life. You're going to prison, and you're going for a very long time for what you have done to this girl."
3 life sentences.
2.
2 life sentences. Wow. Deserving.
Yes.
Because you don't get to hear this of like child predators and rape victims and the people that get convicted. It's never.
No, and that's why I'm telling my story, because I don't want people to ever be afraid of, oh, they might not get that much time. You just never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Okay. You said this turned you off from men for a long time.
Yeah.
At what point do you start to sort of like, okay, invite men back into your life? Does this make you hypersexual, or do you become sort of like a prude?
So at first I was not doing anything, but then I started getting girly. I started stepping out of my tomboy era, and I was a cheerleader, and then I started looking better, I guess, and boys started liking me and noticing me, and I started trusting a little more, So I say around 16. So around 16, I met an older guy. He was older than me. I was afraid to have sex, so I would let him do oral sex on me, which was kind of crazy because, like I still was having nightmares of what had happened to me as a child. So I didn't know if I felt like what I was doing was wrong all the time. Whenever I would do something sexual, I feel like this is not right.
Right.
So
You told me the beer smell is something that
yeah, I couldn't. Any guy that drunk beer, no, I couldn't be around him because that smell just stuck in my nose. That beer smell. I never drunk beer. I hate the smell of beer.
Yeah, it triggers a memory.
Mm-hmm.
So while you're growing up, now you start dating older men,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a direct trauma response to sexual abuse to
Mm-hmm.
a younger woman from an older man is now dating older men.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just one commonality
Mm-hmm.
that they've seen. At some point you start a family, you
Yeah.
get pregnant. How does that happen? Who did you meet? And
So I met my son's father. His name is Jarrell Tyler. Everybody calls him Ray Ray. I was at a mall. I was at a cell phone, T-Mobile little booth, and getting a phone. And he actually didn't come over to me. It was his cousin who approached me and said, "Hey, my cousin want to talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh." And I seen him, light skin, pretty eyes, and I was like, "Oh, okay, well, tell him to come over to me. Like, I don't like nobody sending nobody." So he said, "Okay." He came over, asked me for my number, and then from there, we just clicked. Our birthdays was a day apart. May
wow,
13th, mine May 14th.
wow.
We just clicked. He was just charming.
What was the relationship like?
At first, in the beginning, I was puppy love. I was so in love. I just like, you couldn't tell me nothing about this man. And it was good at first. But then I got pregnant. But when I got pregnant, at the time, we were on and off. He became sort of aggressive.
Mhm,
It started off where it was physically aggressive, like grabbing me.
mhm,
Or where you think you going? I could be going to the store and I have on some leggings. No, you're not going to the store like that. That's too tight. Or even when I met his father, he was like, "You looking at my dad too long. Did you used to talk to my dad? Because he got a history of talking to younger girls." And I'm like, "No, I don't even know your dad." So it just he became aggressive.
mhm.
But I felt like he was doing that because he loved me. So I thought it was love. So I went along with staying with him, but then we kept breaking up and I would go and start dating a much older guy that just got out of prison. He was 10 years older than me, but he was a protector. So I felt
See,
comfortable and safe with him over being with my son's father. So I got pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant at first because I had ovarian cyst issues. And so what happened was they kept telling me the pain was from the cyst. And then I ended up like bleeding really bad. And I got rushed to the hospital. When I got rushed to the hospital, they were telling me that they had to do an immediate surgery. And they had to take off a cyst on my ovary. So they did that. But then after I came out of surgery, they told me that I had lost my child. I was pregnant.
mm,
Did not know. I was confused. Like, what? So I told him that I was pregnant and that I lost the child or whatever. And I went back to the older guy.
mm,
And his name was Twine. So me and Twine, we were together. But I began getting big. My stomach was growing. And I'm confused because I'm like, I lost my baby already. Okay. But now me and Twine, we're having unprotected sex. Okay. I must be pregnant by Twine. So the whole time during my pregnancy, I'm thinking I'm pregnant by Twine because I lost Ray's baby. And I went to a hospital visit and the dates was not adding up. The
mm.
dates was still going back to Ray. And it was like, this is Ray baby. I don't know what happened at that hospital, but this is Ray's baby. And that's when I told his mom and I told Ray. And Ray was just like, no, that ain't my baby. You know, he was like,
Of course.
you already told me you had a miscarriage. This is not
moved
my
on,
child. Yeah,
and-
and you moved on. And so I was just telling him and I was showing him like my ultrasound dates and everything. And he was just like, well, I have to wait until you have this child because I don't believe that's mine. Which I get it.
Of course.
Twine kept saying it was his, but I kept telling him it's not adding up. But in his head, oh, that's my baby.
Right.
So it wasn't like I never told the two. But at the time, it was just a very confusing situation until I later found out I was pregnant with twins. Yeah, I was pregnant with twins. I lost one, and I still was pregnant after that surgery. So after I had my child, of course, the baby was white as ever.
Wait, you had twins?
Yeah, I was pregnant with twins.
Lost one?
Yeah. This same hospital was sued for a lot, McLaren Hospital in Flint. So they didn't inform me, and maybe it was because I was too early, I'm not sure, but they should have been able to see that I had twins.
Wow.
And I lost one.
Did you have to deliver the other child?
No, I guess the miscarriage. It was a miscarriage.
Oh, gotcha.
And then they did a DNC and they cleaned me out and all that stuff. So I had to be early or something. I'm not sure.
There was another kid.
But there's still my son surviving. And how I found out is when I delivered him. And Twine was at the hospital. Ray knew about me, you know, going into delivery, but he didn't want to come because, you know, he felt like it wasn't his. And I delivered my son, and he was so white. My baby daddy is mixed. His grandmother is Caucasian, so this wasn't a black child. The nurses, everybody knew. And so after that, we did DNA, and Ray was 99.9%. My son's father. Twan still was around.
Really?
You know, like he still was in my son's life the whole time until he died. He died from alcohol as well, drinking.
What is going on in Michigan?
Stressed. People are depressed. It's poverty. It's poor. We don't have many police officers in Flint.
Water.
Not even good water.
Okay. So, what age did what age did Twan die?
Twan died. Michael probably was like 6 because I went back to visit. Yeah.
So probably about 6 years later. What was the relationship? Did having Micah make you and Ray get back together?
We did get back together. So Flint is small and everybody know everybody. So Ray knew Twan's family. And so Twan still wanted to be a part of Micah's life, and Ray was not going for that. Every time he would see him, he'd threaten him. You don't come around my child. So it was just a lot, but I couldn't just take Micah away from that family. Twan mom, everybody was close with Micah. I couldn't just do that. So
And you were in a relationship.
Yeah, so I couldn't do it, and it was becoming a problem with me and Twan. I could tell like he was drinking more.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say he was drinking more because of the situation, but I think he had a lot going on. And it just became where Twan was yelling more around my baby. I didn't like that. And so I ended up getting back with Ray. We got back in a relationship, and
at some point Ray puts a gun to your head.
Yeah.
Pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
Why?
Ray became very abusive. I was hiding it from everybody. His mom kind of knew once I had to call her. It was snowing outside, and Ray put me and my son, who wasn't even 1 year old yet, outside. Beat me up, put me out. I'm walking, I'm calling his mom. Come get us, help us. She came, she pulled up with his cousin, and she just was like, I can't believe this. I thought she would have his back, but she was not playing about me and her grandson. She took us back over there. She went off on him. She told him he was wrong, you know, and he knew it. And he's like, just can't deal with her right now. He was just overly jealous all the time. I didn't understand it until I found out Ray has schizophrenic bipolar issues. I never knew that. And then that's when his mom shared that information with me.
When he pulled the trigger, what were you thinking?
I thought I was dead. All I heard was a click, you know. He kicked in my door. Basically, I had went out with one of his family members, and my son had went to his mom's house while we were, at a club. Ray found out about it. Oh, he was mad.
It was a guy
Yeah.
that was the guy into you?
Oh no, who I was hanging with that
Yeah.
night? No, it was his female cousin.
Oh,
But Ray was mad because he didn't want me in the clubs.
wow.
And so she was the one who told him, like, me and Quita in the club, guys trying to talk to her. Yeah. It was one of those backdoor situations. And he was calling me, texting me, you a slut, all kinds of stuff. And so I knew when I got back to my apartment, he was coming. He was coming. And it was probably 3 o'clock in the morning. He beating on the door. Boom, 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 boom. Open this door, open this door. And I was just like, what is it? And I had neighbors. So at first I didn't want to open the door. I was scared. But I ended up opening the door and he pushed the door in, choked me up. I tried to run to the kitchen. Of course I was trying to help myself and get a knife. And that's when he pulled out a gun, put it up to my head, pulled the trigger. I heard the click. I just knew I was dead. And I remember him saying, if I can't have you, nobody gonna have you. And the bullet hit the floor. Like you could hear it. I guess the gun was jammed. It had to been jammed or something. He picked it up, ran out the door. And he realized, like, I just really pulled the trigger. She ain't dead though. And he ran. And I just was just like, this man really was just about to kill me.
Did you stay with him after that?
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. We broke up, and I even started to keep my son away. But it got to the point where family members were saying, "Oh, she's mad because they're not together. That's why she's keeping her son away from him." So I allowed him to, Micah to be back with his dad, go over his mom's house and things like that. So yeah, we had broke up, and
What ends up happening to Ray?
Ray ends up, my mom called his mom, and my mom is a very spiritual type of person. And she was like, oh, we're going to end this. I don't know what kind of demonic demon Ray's dealing with, but I want him to come over, and I want you to come with him. She called them over, and I never forget this day because my mom had my son in her hand. Ray and his mom came, and she prayed over him. And I never seen a human being eyes roll in the back of their head like his. It was like a demon came out of him. Ray ended up saying he was sorry and, saying he had a lot mentally going on with him. And then he began joining our church. He got baptized. He started going he started going to church with us. We was officially not together, but we were getting closer again. And he stopped carrying guns. He stopped smoking weed. He did a whole 360. He was changing.
Wow.
He was doing better.
Wow.
But tragedy struck again.
What happens?
Ray get killed.
Right after getting saved.
Right after getting saved, right after changing his life. But Ray was still hanging around the same people he grew up with that was still into streets. So
what happened the night that Ray
so
was murdered?
From my understanding, Ray was at his mom's house and he got a phone call on his cell phone. This is what his mom told me. And she said that a female called saying, come to the block party. She was having a block party. And all his friends was there. He grew up with this guy named Blink. That was like one of his best friends. And they was like, yeah, man, come pull up. So he pulled up. So an eyewitness who was there claimed that when Ray pulled up, they were questioning him about his older brother, Osama. And that Ray was like, why y'all asking me about my brother? And arguing back and forth with these guys. It was 3 guys. It was for sure Blink and T-Rock. But the third guy, I don't know. And when they were arguing back and forth, the guys began shooting at him. And I believe he got shot right then and there. But he jumped in his car and tried to take off. They gunned him down. He hit a fence. He hit an older lady's fence. And she said she was inside reading the Bible and she heard the car crash into her fence. And as she was about to run out to try to see if the guy was okay, which was Ray, they gunned him down some more. Yeah.
T. Brock, Blink, and
Unknown.
an unknown person.
Mm-hmm.
When we look a little bit deeper into this, we find that they were after his brother, Osama.
So allegedly, from what the streets saying, because you know there's street justice and there's justice, and there has not been a justice. So we listen to what we know, what people are saying, and Blink's own brother said, his blood brother said that he knew that his brother had something to do with Ray being killed. He called Ray mama apologizing because, like I said, they all grew up together.
Mm-hmm.
They called Ray mom, you know, that type of situation. So more like brothers. But we ended up finding out that Osama was supposedly dealing. I'm not sure if that's true or not. And that one of the guys he was dealing to, last phone call was to him, got killed. So the uncles and the family members of the guy who got killed, who was a very popular guy in Flint, said the last phone call was who killed him because they were meeting and he was comfortable enough to open the door and he was gunned down at his house, that it was Osama. So they were saying, the streets were saying it was Osama. I didn't believe it was Osama, but that's what the streets were saying.
Was Osama known for being a stepper, a gangster?
People was afraid of Osama. He was a bigger guy. He meant business, you know. He was
Right.
I was afraid of Osama, you know, so like not afraid of him. It was just his demeanor. It give you like, you know.
So the people that Osama had got into it with, they must have been really serious people as
Oh,
well.
they were some known money getting OGs, and that was their family. So they were upset and they put a hit out.
Got you.
So they put a money hit out on Osama.
Got you.
And from my understanding, Blink and them heard about it and they jumped on that. They were supposed to kill Osama. So I'm guessing they set Ray up to come to that party. And they was questioning him about his brother. And being Ray, don't question him about his brother. He probably argued back. But mind you, he's not carrying a gun anymore. He's saved, he's different. And they knew that. Because they would make jokes. Oh, you a church boy now. You going to church with your baby mama. You changed now. So they knew he wasn't carrying anymore. And I feel like that's when they attacked him, thinking that they was, I don't know if they thought they would get paid from that or they just did it because they felt like we're going to get any family member that got something to do with Osama to prove to these OGs that we can do this. We can get this money. And they were threatening everybody.
There's a picture of Blink and Ray together. These guys were friends.
They were friends. Well, that's what we all thought, they were friends until this situation happened. But yeah, they grew up together.
After Ray's murder, you start getting threats.
Phone calls saying, "Oh, you'll be next. We'll kill your son." Yeah. So, and then his sister, Ray's sister, was getting threats, and then his mom apartment got ramshacked. So, yeah, we was getting threatened.
Ray's mom's apartment completely robbed.
Completely robbed, ramshacked, flipped over.
At this point, there needs to be like funeral arrangements. There needs to be things that are going on. Are y'all afraid? Is this like, is tension in the air? The streets are talking. What's going on?
It's tension in the air. And then the tension began to get on social media. So, like I said, Osama knew, we knew, Ray, other brother knew, the whole family knew who had something to do with it, who did it really. But we just never know who that unknown third person is. But we knew for sure T. Brock and Blink was the ones who did it. And it's crazy because a couple nights before that, my son was with his father. And I was at work. I worked the third shift at a nursing home. And they were all playing video games with my son. Whole time had been plotting.
Oh.
So my son has seen them play video games with them, you know, and it was just crazy. It was a lot.
The witness, the lady reading the Bible, that was going to come out and see what was going on
Mm-hmm.
as Ray was being killed.
Mm-hmm.
She was going to testify.
In court. And it was other witnesses as well. It was a guy who I went to school with who inboxed me on Facebook. He lived in the neighborhood, and he was the one telling me that he seen the arguments. He seen the three guys. You know, he seen my baby daddy trying to like take off in his car. I told the sheriff or the detective at the time, and he was like, okay, give me his information. He talked with him. The guy acted as if he would testify. When it came down to court hearings and them actually about to go to court, people were just recanting their stories. They were like, they don't know what we were talking about. And somebody ended up dying.
Who died?
It was a female witness. She got killed. I'm not
The
sure.
lady that was reading
Not that lady. It was another female witness. She was supposed to be a witness. And she got shot in the head sitting inside of a truck with her boyfriend. Now,
and the boyfriend lived.
the boyfriend lived. She died.
She was the target.
She was the target. And I don't know that lady's name, but I remember during that time, it was so much going on. I remember she was going to be a witness. So I think people got threatened. And a lot of people were saying it was by T. Brock. He was going around telling people if they went to testify anything, they'll die.
Wow.
And there was no witnesses no more.
T. Brock, this guy must sounds like a lunatic, but he
Yeah.
must really be a dangerous person.
He is very dangerous.
A funeral has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about the funeral.
Okay, so the funeral.
How was it? I remember you had mentioned to me that you had saw Ray's body and it was unrecognizable.
Okay, so for 2 weeks we couldn't identify Ray's body because of how many times he was shot. So we knew he was dead because we knew that was his car and people took pictures. So we knew he was dead, but we wanted to make sure. But they wouldn't. Yeah, they wouldn't. They said we can't do that. So
how many times was he shot?
13 or more, I believe. But I know it was also shot. He was shot in the head, so that was like a big thing. The ballistics, we had to wait. So I had a family member who worked at the funeral home. She called my mother. She said, Ray's body is here. And my mom told me being the person that I am, I was so anxious just to see. I told everybody in the family because we was all staying in a safe house called the White House in Flint because of all the threats. And when I told them this, his mom didn't want to come. Me, his sister, a whole bunch of other family members, we went to the funeral home. And they was like, y'all can't come in here. We just went in there anyway. And we seen his body before they did anything to him. It was horrible. It was horrible. He still had the blood on him, dried up blood. You could see that they shot him in his head. It was just a big hole in his forehead. It was something that I probably shouldn't have went to go see, but we went and it was bad. It was bad. They shot him so many times. His body was full of holes. Yeah.
At some point, they were able to take pieces of his nose
Mm-hmm.
and put it in the hole in his head.
Mm-hmm. So that we could have an open casket. The funeral was a nightmare. It was just family hour. We didn't even get to complete the funeral. So during family hour, everybody got to go view the body. And I didn't really want to go see it. I just didn't. He was darker. It just didn't look like him. I could see from a distance. So his cousin snaps a picture. I see the picture. And I finally get some strength to just go up there and look at the body. And as I go sit down, 3 guys come walking down the aisle right before they're about to end family hour. It's Blink, it's T-Brock, and it's some short guy. Could be the unknown. I don't know. They came in there so disrespectful. They had on hoodies that said "Rest in peace" to the guy that was supposedly the guy that Osama killed. They went down to the casket. They looked at his body. And me and his mom, I just remember her grabbing my hand. She wanted to get up. We all did. We just couldn't believe they actually came to the funeral. And they looked at his body and they looked at each other in disgust, like what they did. Why is this casket open? Type look, or I can't believe they fixed them. That's what was the look. It was like they was mad. And so by the time they looked at each other and did a little smirk at each other, they started walking down the aisle towards the bathroom. And everybody is just like on edge right now. We can't believe they came. And we hear gunshots. Next thing you know, people in the funeral, everybody is pulling out guns, running, trampling over each other. I grab my son. We run towards where the bathroom is at because that's where the exit is at. Mind you, it's still a whole line outside trying to get into the church for the funeral. And I see T. Brock running towards the side exit door trying to shoot as well. And when I ran towards the bathroom, that's when we see Blink's body on the ground. And it's just like his brains are all on the ground. He got shot in the head.
You saw that?
Yeah, I saw that. It was horrible. And I noticed he had on a bulletproof vest. Like you could see a bulletproof vest. And while he's laid on the ground, it's a gun in his hand. So I'm just like, what is going on? This is just crazy. So later on, I found out, I guess Blink was trying to shoot somebody. And I believe he was coming to the funeral to finish the job of killing Osama. And somebody got him before he got them. Now, I never seen who shot him. Nobody knows who shot him. A lot of people were speculating Osama, but it couldn't have been Osama. Because during the time of the gunshots, Osama was in the front of the church where I was at. So.
And kids are seeing this.
Yeah, kids. It's all the kids are there.
How long are you staying there for? Does the ambulance come right away?
So it was supposed to be a state trooper at the funeral anyway. He got there, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. It took them. I could still hear shooting outside. So they say T. Brock and the other guy jumped into a van that a girl was waiting on them outside parked. And they were steady shooting. And they got away before the trooper got there. So when the trooper got there, T. Brock and them are gone. They're questioning us like we did. Yeah. Right. So
now you have
it's a crime scene now.
Ray in the casket.
Yep.
Blink on the floor dead. They ran the ballistics on the gun in Blink's hand.
Matched the bullet to the bullet that was in Ray's head. So we for sure know now that Blink did shoot Ray in the head. But yet, it's still an unsolved case. It's still listed as unsolved. So we got patted down in the funeral. They even checked my son's bag. I think at the time my son was around 2.5, 3 years old. They patted him down, patted us down, patted everybody down. And it was several people got arrested at that funeral for having like drugs, things, and all kinds of stuff. It was just horrible. It was people outside like, what's going on? We couldn't even make it through family hour. Funeral over with. We couldn't even put him down in the ground because it's a crime scene now. I never seen my baby daddy get put in the ground.
What is going on in Michigan?
Violence, hatred.
Okay. What are y'all thinking after y'all get back, regroup as a family? Like, what's the conversations like?
So, it's photos of us online. You can see I'm holding my son's hand. Ray mom is in front of me, and so is his brother. And we're just like in disbelief. We just can't believe. It's crazy enough, and it hurts so much that we already got a loved one that's gone, and now y'all ruined his funeral, and his son is here who had to witness this. So everybody is just all over the place, and everybody is on the lookout for T-Brock.
Were you ever cool with Blink? Were you and Blink ever cool?
Never,
Never.
never. I knew his brother. I grew up one of the schools I went to. His
Right.
brother.
But the war isn't finished.
Mm-mm. It just began.
What happens next?
So after the funeral, and everybody is trying to, gain their mental back. I move. My dad gets me out of here. He said, "You got to get out of there." He moves me to Georgia. I bring my son with me, and we try to start a whole new life.
Mm.
So my son's first day of school in Atlanta is different from in Michigan. I get a phone call from all his little cousins screaming, Quita, crying, Miss Rita is dead. Miss Rita is a older woman who used to be a principal in Flint, who also kind of raised the kids. She's like a grandmother to them. She's Caucasian, but she's been in the family since my baby daddy was a child. And Genesis is dead. Genesis would have been my son's uncle. That's his grandfather's son. He was 1 year old at the time. So I'm like, y'all stop playing. Too much tragedy is happening. I'm in like, this can't be for real. And they're like, no, they just shot up the house. I'm like, who? And then they was like, we don't know, but we're underneath the couch bed or like the futon, and we're hiding. I say, y'all, are y'all serious? They say, yeah. So they hung up, and I instantly called Micah's grandmother who lives in Flint, and that's Ray's mom. And she was like, I know. I'm trying to get over there now. So she basically was confirming that this really happened, and I just was like, and my son was like, Mama, what's going on? And I was like, I don't want to tell you this, son, but I had to, because he's hearing everything. And I was like, Miss Rita dead, and Genesis is dead as well. Somebody just shot up the house. They did. And Micah just held me. He was crying. We holding each other crying. And then it was all over the news. 70-year-old woman killed, 1-year-old toddler killed, house shot up.
Mm.
Street saying it's T-Brock retaliation, mad because of Blink getting killed at the funeral, and everybody got to die now.
But you brought Blink to the funeral.
Exactly.
And it didn't go the way you thought it would go. So now I'm going to just keep
killing. Keep killing, but yet he's still out.
Whose kid is the 1-year-old? Genesis.
Genesis is my son's grandfather child. Now the
Ray's father.
son. Now it's a lot of people not gonna like what I'm about to say, but I have to tell the truth. So after Ray was killed, I was told that Micah was not Ray's only child. I'm confused. Micah has always been Ray's only child. So there is, and probably why Ray was so aggressive back then when he used to say, I looked at his father. There is a history of his father messing around with his son's girlfriends. Now he's older. These girls are younger. Ray dad used to be a preacher. And he had a place called the Praise House, which was like a teen, supposed to be church, but turned into teen everything, club. And one of the girls that my baby daddy used to date when he was younger is now his stepmom. His dad married her and has children by her. Genesis being one of the children who got killed. But there's also other children, which one of the little girls has green eyes. My baby daddy has green eyes. And I was told later that that's his daughter. So she's the same age as my son. And the whole time I was always around the stepmom, and the stepmom at the funeral and hugging on me the whole time. Her and my baby daddy was messing around. And now, I'm not sure, but one of the little girls is supposed to be my son's sister. Yeah, so not his auntie, but his sister. But I reached out to his father, Ray's father, and Ray's father said that's his daughter.
Okay.
So I don't know. The
Okay,
grandmother is
that's
saying
that's not the case.
that's not the case.
So Ray was sleeping with his stepmom,
Hmm.
which was also his ex-girlfriend, which is also his father's.
Wife. Hmm.
T. Brock came after Ray's family
Hmm.
because of the murder of Blink.
Hmm. Allegedly.
All over Osama. Where's Osama?
So Osama ends up getting locked up. Osama get locked up on some kind of charges. I'm not sure, but it had nothing to do with like the murders and things. And he goes to jail. So as Osama is in jail, T. Brock gets locked back up for something.
Oh my goodness.
And T. Brock is in the same jail as Osama, and he attacks him in jail, stabs him, and
What?
yeah. So now he's still on the hunt for people. He's still attacking people. Eventually, T. Brock gets out of jail again, but Osama, Osama is in prison, so he's still locked up. But T. Brock is out free. Yeah. He ended up marrying someone from Flint that lives in Georgia. So the last time I heard they were married, he was supposed to be getting bonded to Georgia to live with the wife. So this is when my son started changing. I think my son started researching. We talked to him. He has a counselor as well. But I think as he got older, he started researching. Now my son is ordering gun parts, trying to put together a gun. But I caught it before he could, because I ended up getting a package and I'm seeing that these are gun parts. So now I have to talk to my son and ask him what's going on with him mentally.
Cycle continues.
Yeah. And I really felt like he knew that T. Brock was in Georgia. And yeah.
Was Micah, your son, relationship with his father Ray, was it a good one?
So close. Even though he was so young and people like, he not gonna remember. My son remembers everything. He remembers the days before his daddy was killed, him being with his daddy playing a video game. And he was just so close with his daddy.
I want to talk about the horror of Flint, Michigan.
Hmm.
There's a lawsuit that your son just won, and all the people in Flint, Michigan have won
Hmm.
after 2014. If you were living in Flint after 2014,
Hmm.
talk to me about that.
So the water has always been contaminated, but it never was coming out brown until like a certain year. So they narrowed it down to, I believe, 2014. If you were living in Flint during that time, you can get a settlement, because people were having skin issues. My son was having skin issues. Blood work was coming back, E. coli, like mine. When I moved to Georgia, I had blood work done. I had E. coli in my blood. I had to be on antibiotics, all kinds of things. But I couldn't be a part of the settlement because I was living in Georgia in 2014. So my son, he was also living here, but he was visiting every summer with his grandmother. So that's how he was able to get the settlement. But we still don't have no money. They keep emailing us, the case has been won, but nobody has a check.
You told me that y'all don't even have a police department.
Not really. It's probably like 3 police in Flint. It's not enough money. So they have to use state troopers. Hmm. The crime is up to the roof in Flint, Michigan.
The hospitals giving out misinformation, they closed down. The schools, the high school.
High schools. There's probably one high school left. The high school I graduated from, that might be the only one that's left. But the one I went to 3 years, for 3 years, Central is closed. Northern is closed. Northwestern, those were the main high schools.
How could how could a good product come from such a terrible place?
I have a praying family.
Mm.
And my belief in God, as I got older, I was so angry. My mom taught me, my grandmother taught me, read that Bible.
Yeah.
And it's stuff in the Bible that you can't understand because the wording.
Mysteries of the
Right.
word.
So I stayed going to church, and I had a great preacher in Flint and Bishop Floyd. And then when I moved here to Georgia, I started going to Curran Lee church on Panola Road. And I just became closer to God.
Have you ever forgave the man
So
from your childhood?
in the beginning, my preacher in Flint told me that, you have to forgive him. And I didn't understand that. I was just like, why would I forgive somebody who did something like that to me? I'm not forgiving him. And I just didn't. But my mom said, you have to, Quita. You got to let that go because you'll be an angry person for the rest of your life. And you get your blessings by forgiving. And so I forgave him in my heart. I never ever wrote him. I never went to visit, but I forgave him in my heart. And God knows your heart. So when it really was there that I forgave this man, and like when you spoke to my mom, that was my first time hearing that Mike had been touched by an older woman, and I didn't know that. And so I feel like it's not an excuse because I would never do what somebody has done to me. It's kind of like a curse and a cycle at the same time. And that's why I'm telling my story, because people need to know, get help, get counseling. Don't repeat the same cycle that was done to you. If you know it hurted you as a child, why would you put that on another child? Or, even adults, why would you do that?
Any regrets?
No regrets. No regrets. I was very afraid to share everything, because like people are gonna have things to say. People are gonna say, why did she say that? Why did she tell that? Why? It's my story, and it needs to be told.
If there was something you could tell your younger self, maybe that 9-year-old girl, what would it be?
I would tell myself that it wasn't your fault. I would also say that let go of that hurt. Let go of that hurt. And yeah.
My name is Chris Dow's Trappin Anonymous. Let's get it. Thank you. Excellent
Thank
job.
you.
Excellent job.